Conversation with Aneeka, 2021. You mentioned that the Vieira is the headquarters of the local or regional council of the Federation here. That is, it would be like the Earth Council, the ones that officially represent the humans.
Yes, that is exactly the role here, but they just don't excel at being helpful. This is exactly our point and problem.
And who oversees or represents them?
Supposedly the Saturn Federation, which are impossible to find.
And who oversees the Saturnians?
Supposedly another Federation council from a group of stars in the sector of the galaxy, even more difficult to find. I stress that I'm not talking about Federation in progressively higher densities. I am talking about people in the same density as those in the Vieira. I only speak of politicians with more power, not densities. It is true that in densities there is also Federation that oversees downwards, but it is more difficult to access because it is not in your reality or world. Evidently, they have mechanisms so that you cannot reach them directly.
You don't know what constellation or solar system they are in?
Yes, but it is impossible for me to share it at this time, not because of secrecy, but because of impossibility of description. What happens is that the concept of constellations differ in space, being that only some like Taurus, Pleiades, Orion, among a few others, coincide with those known on Earth. This is because the constellations, as you know them, are seen and mapped from the point of view of the Earth. Here, the point of view is more directly related to star map sectors, but I have no shared reference. Just looking at it from the explainable perspective, it is a set of local stars closest to your Sun 13, which would include Alpha Centauri, Triple System, and a few others. I would need a star chart to more or less explain it.
Why are Saturnians impossible to find?
Because no one knows who they are or where they are. They just give orders from their place above, and there is no one to go to or see or write to. This not only happens to us, but also to the rest of the races here in our neighborhood, like the Vieira.
Have you tried going to Saturn in person?
Yes, and nobody knows anything. It's a massive traffic area with large biosphere ships of many races. These are called many times on Earth as the Sphere Alliance. Going to Saturn is like going to Los Angeles in California. Good luck finding someone who doesn't want to be found there.
And isn't the fact that you can't go and see or talk to them directly a negative aspect of this structure?
Undoubtedly. This is the point where you can most openly see that the system is broken. It becomes pyramidal and not holographic.
And what role does the Sphere Alliance play in all of this?
It's more Federation. Let's say the Sphere Alliance is a group like the Andromeda Council or the Alcyone Council would be, officially independent. However, they form the Federation as well. Federation being such a large body that it collapses under its own weight. That is its problem. It has become worse like gigantic, and therefore unmanageable and useless.
And do you know what races are on Saturn?
The same as here. The most known ones, the usual ones, dominated by Andromedans, Arcturians, and Sirians, although I clarify that Pleiadians are not.
I find it incredible that the Saturn Federation hides or camouflages itself among the other races present there. That fact alone would have to get them out of their position. What kind of representation can someone you can't access make?
Yes, however, note that to remove them from office, you must first know who they are, and that is what they circumvent with anonymity. Another point that stands out here is that it is the same structure as Earth's super elite. Dark government that only works with puppets of many levels, but you can never see who has real power, since Soros, Gates, Rockefeller, Rothschild, and so on are only fronts for characters in the back with more power. Here it is the same with the Federation, exactly the same. That is why we insist that it is a reflection of what happens on Earth. There are only orders coming in with validation codes. It doesn't say who it is from. Just something like, the Honorable Saturn High Council dictates that you are to withdraw from the vicinity of Earth immediately. Certification Alpha Whiskey Bravo 928167-675172. And that's it. There's no one to answer to or appeal anything to.
Wow, that's bad. And what races make up the Sphere Alliance?
Andromedans, Arcturians, Corinthians, Devonians, and Aviars. Sedet Ceres Aviar.
Aviars, are they birds?
Yes, basically the ones that Corey Gu talks about.
And what's the upside for the Andromedans or the Viera people to become oblivious to this problem?
Nothing. If you talk to them, since they are on your same level here, they will be very empathetic and concerned. They will also say that they don't see what else they can do. They accept that there's a problem, but they don't know how to proceed. They don't say that they're blind to the problem, they say that their hands are tied. And also, speaking of them, what complicates everything further is that everyone and every race will have their own ideas, depending on their concepts and understanding as a race. With the Andromedans, for example, being very concerned about karma.
So, what is the problem according to them exactly? Because I think they are tying their own hands. If you really want to solve a problem, but you have no one to confront, then have them come to you. Start acting differently with the Earth, and then they will have to come out of the shadows, if Saturn truly wants to intervene.
The problem is that according to them, it should be solved by humans, not them. The problem is that Yasi agrees with this, but not as in that humans must as a duty, as something imposed by authority, but that, according to Yasi, you can only solve the problem from the human level, from within the Earth as human beings, and not from outside. She says that this is the only way. It's not because the other races don't want to do anything, but because they can't do anything and only humans can.
I understand what Yassi says, but we think that the problem is also outside. The problem is everywhere. And where is the Saturn base? On the planet or on some moons? Or its position is also unknown? It was low 5D density, right?
We think it's among the countless bases that are all over that area. They're not on Saturn proper, but the bases are on the moons like Mimas, Titan, Enceladus, Dione, Tethys, and the rings themselves mainly. That's why they like Saturn so much, plus countless spacecraft of all sizes in Saturnian orbit all the time.
And what are these bases like? What structures do they have?
The bases are mostly 90% underground. They're tunneled. They use asteroids and large rocks in the rings and hollow them out with an outer shield structure. As for large bases on moons, they're also mostly underground with entrances in craters and mountain slopes. As for surface facilities, they are dominated by spider-like structures with a dome in the center and tubes coming out in different directions going underground.
And you have nothing on the planet Saturn? There is no one there?
Saturn as a planet is too dense, and at the same time gaseous, with a defined surface, so only animal beings adapted to extreme environments live there. For most Federation races, it is impractical to use Saturn itself. What makes Saturn so interesting is its rings. It is a mostly rock structure that can be used for multiple things. forming very large variety of places to establish bases on them, mining for resources, minerals, and metals for industry.
What kind of animals are there?
Mostly animals that spend their whole lives floating. They look like giant jellyfish. Also parasites that live on the jellyfish, using them for sustenance. There is no development of advanced civilization there. It's animal kingdom. They're like balloon beings or dirigible beings. Huge, although there are various sizes. I understand that they do get as big as the Heidelberg or the Goodyear.
I guess like fish in the water?
Maybe, yes. That is, they float in the atmosphere of Saturn in a habitable zone for them, where they can't go higher because they would spread out too much, nor lower because Saturn's atmospheric pressure would crush them.
And what do they feed on?
I understand that they feed on other beings in floating ecosystems. Smaller beings like krill would be for whales. There are clouds of living organisms in the atmosphere, and the larger beings pass through. And the small ones, which form those clouds, also feed on smaller ones.
And there is no plant kingdom?
There must be, always floating in different atmospheric strata. Even if there is no surface, the pressure is so high that it exceeds the rock. But you don't get there all at once, but little by little, increasing atmospheric pressure until you reach solidity.